My name is Ken Schwartz of Precise Sharpening, and today I'm going to be introducing a most unusual stone. This is the 2000 grit Nubatama Bamboo series of stones. So what I'm going to be doing, this is probably one of the premier stones of the entire Nubatama series, and we're going to check it out and find out what it has to offer us. So what I'm going to do is initially test for porosity, see how porous the stone is. Then I'm going to be touching up this particular knife. This is a knife that has been around for a long time. It's a favorite of mine. It's a Takeda 311 millimeter wa or Japanese handled Sujihiki. So it's a double bevel as opposed to single bevel. Sujihiki, it's a slicer, basically. So I had previously sharpened this knife on a guided device called Gizmo and done these two sides at a 3-degree angle between them, and then put a 5 and 7 degree micro bevel on there. Anyhow, the long and short of that is that what I'm going to be doing is touching up this 3-degree bevel and rounding the 5 and 7 degree bevel into a continuous curved grind, or a hamaguri grind on both sides of the knife. So let's see how well this does. Knife is pretty sharp to begin with, and let's start out by checking porosity. Okay. So somewhat similar to the 1500 grit stone at this point. Okay. Let's see how well it absorbs water. Okay. So this looks pretty much like a splash and go. A minute or so worth of soaking should get us on the road. Then we can switch to a spray gun and go from there. So again, what I'm going to be doing with this is not grinding on the Kuroichi finish, but just above it, and by pressing on that, we bring this up slightly so that the surface of the 3-degree part of the knife that had been ground previously will be the area that will be getting worked on. And then afterwards, we'll bring it up just slightly to bring it to the edge and round off those two so that we end up with a final 7-degree bevel on this knife. This steel is a Aogami Super steel, pretty hard steel, but basically a carbon steel. So let's see how this feels. Okay, very smooth, very fast cutting. This stone is supposed to have a very high abrasive content, so we can see immediately one swipe and we're getting metal. Okay. Very smooth, very, very fine grit. And I'm pressing fairly firmly, but you hardly hear the stone at all. This is very smooth. Okay, we're getting some mud. Excellent feedback. It very much reminds me of the feel of a 10,000 grit Chosara, oddly enough. I mean, I know that it's a much coarser grit than that, but now some of that darkness will also be from the patina that's coming off as we go along the length of this. Okay, with the mud on there, it continues to get a bit smoother. The stone is essentially saturated in almost no time at all. Very fine mud. If you're familiar with natural stones, it does have a feel a little bit that reminds me of a Haka type stone. Maybe not quite so muddy as a Haka, a little bit more like a Yaganoshima Asagi stone that I have. Okay, very interesting. If you've noticed the pitch change, all of a sudden it's gone silent. So now we're basically traveling on the mud of the stone rather than directly on the stone itself. You can hear it now a little over here, more scratchy, then over here. Okay, so it's very, very good feedback in terms of giving your ear a sense of the angle that you're sharpening it. Now listen to it right now. Almost silent. So we get a very fine mud, very consistent mud, not an excessive amount of mud. I would say probably a bit less than you would get on a Haka stone, natural stone. This is just enough mud for single bevels to give you a very nice, even finish. In the future, I'll probably be doing a few of those, but let's see how we're doing over here. So I will preserve the mud by putting it back on here. And let's take a look at this. So what we're seeing is a very even Kasumi type finish. So this stone appeals to both sharpening and aesthetic considerations. So this stone would be an absolutely superb stone to use as a pre-finisher before going on to higher grit natural stones or polishing stones. Again, you can hear how it's gone silent. So again, very quick saturation, very smooth texture. This is a very fine mud, but this is a mud that can be used to very good advantage in your sharpening. Now, some might say that I'm being very cheap, not wasting any of this mud. but this is a very refined mud, so what I'm doing is I'm preserving a labor investment of sorts. So let's look at this side and see what it looks like. And we see that this was done with synthetic stones and was originally what it looks like. And now we look at this and we see, very interesting. This is very much of a natural stone-like finish where we have a lot of contrast between the cladding and the harder steel, the harder core steel, and it's evening it out, giving a sort of matte finish to this area. So if we were to continue to do this, we would get a very nice finish. So I would at this point, my initial impression of this is that I would highly recommend this stone as a pre-finishing stone for natural stone finishes. Cutting is going to be fine. Not even concerned about it, but just do the routine. Okay. Just drops through paper. I think that this will be a very popular stone. Even though it is a somewhat more expensive stone, I think that you'll find that this stone will both appeal to your aesthetic considerations as well as functional ones. Thank you for your time. These are available at Chef's Knives to Go in Ken's Corner.